Hello. So I am very happy to be teaching the cybersecurity course at Hocking College. And this is the review for Chapter 1, The Need for Cybersecurity. This is more in line with what I did with my undergrad and graduate degrees, and I just loved it when I learned it, and I'm just happy to be back into teaching it. So the Chapter 1 that we're going to be covering is personal data, organization data, attackers and cybersecurity professionals, and warfare. So one of the class discussions is there anything you didn't realize before regarding cybersecurity? So some examples that we could be having is online versus offline identity, medical records and medical devices, education records, where your data is actually stored, and who uses your data. This is becoming more and more in the news lately in regards to our data being taken for use for political reasons, for financial gain, for Facebook, for um, medical records, always a big one. Your online and offline identity. So there's regulations and standards out there that are out there to help protect you. So I came across some good videos that I really enjoyed, and I embedded them in there. I thought that was a good way to kind of break up the monotony of a PowerPoint. But I saw this really good one from HP saying it's all protected, right? This one's about 10 minutes long, if I remember correctly, or 8 minutes, 7 minutes.
You know what makes wolves such good predators? They're smart. Rather than hunting strong, healthy prey, they go after the weak, the injured, the sick, the most vulnerable. Todd here happens to be the CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer, of one of the medical world's biggest software companies, which means he's in charge of keeping all their data safe should the bad guys come knocking. At the moment, Todd is experiencing some chest pains. Maybe he ate some bad fish, huh? But I know what's really going on here. Tons of hospitals use Todd's company to host all their patient data in the cloud. Now, if I can remove him from the equation, no one here would have the authority to take the company offline and secure all that data during an attack. So last week, I paid his doctor a little visit.
Carmela, the doctor will see you now.
Good luck with that hip, Carmela. At offices like this, people are rarely at their desk for long. Of course, that wouldn't be a big deal if their smartphones could automatically lock down their PCs when they walked away. But right now, I'm hiding some malware that will allow me to bypass all their protections. This old PC, they'll never be able to detect or remove it. This way I could access Todd's file, and thus all his prescriptions. Just like that, I was able to mess with the dosage of his blood pressure medication, the side effects of which are dizziness and really bad indigestion. And now, a trip to the hospital, just like I planned.
Any family members you want to stop?
My wife, but I don't want to worry her. I'm sure it's nothing.
Oh, it's going to be something, all right. Oh! Most people think hospitals are scary. They've got no idea. Hospitals just like this one might be home to some of the most advanced medical equipment on Earth. But, like most businesses, they're also crawling with unsecured printers like this guy. Without BIOS level protection to keep it safe, anyone can install just about anything on here. Now, that little software update just allowed me to create a backdoor directly into their network. I just changed his name in the system. Seriously, this thing is like a sieve.
Take good care of you, John.
John? His name's Todd. You can't even keep his name straight. Now, if someone, his wife, or say anyone from his security team back at the office calls looking for him in an emergency, no one's going to be able to find him. Sweet smell of success. Get comfortable, Todd. Things are about to get real interesting thanks to that old printer. If it had threat detection, it would have stopped my attack before it started. But since it doesn't, there's nothing to stop me from using it to print out some results I made all by myself.
Here are the revised labs, doctor. Okay, thank you. We are going to have to increase your medication. You're going to feel a little groggy, but it's okay.
Talk about the gift that keeps on giving. Now he's going to sleep through the night. Guess we no longer have to worry about him answering that cell phone over there. You're probably wondering why I go through all this trouble. Well, I'll show you. 3, 2, 1.
This is good.
You're right about that.
Am I the only one seeing this?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
We need to call Todd.
They take it upon themselves to cut off every hospital on their network, or hope and pray that Todd will miraculously appear to save the day. But he ain't coming.
What am I looking at?
Sir, it appears there's been a data breach.
Yeah, I can see that. Where the hell is Todd?
At the moment, we don't know where he is.
You don't know. Someone is stealing all of our medical records from all of our hospitals, and you don't know where the hell Todd is?
I love a good mystery. Don't you? I'm sorry, Dave. It's not personal. With their chief information security officer out of the picture, they're basically paralyzed. Even though they spent a ton making their network super secure, it turns out the PCs attached to it were not. Does this thing have hardened multi-factor authentication? Nope.
Even the backup servers have been compromised.
Hardware enforced protection to stop these poor folks from exposing everyone every time they clicked on a bad link? Negative. Without anything like that to stop me, my malware can devour every file it touches. Time to dial up the fun. I now have in my possession the health records of millions of patients. All because I hacked one doctor's office, one hospital, and made one guy disappear. Let's put Todd back on the grid, shall we? Oh, come on. You didn't really think I was just going to leave him here, did you?
Sir? Your wife is on the phone.
Yeah, Todd's okay.
Hey, honey.
Though I can't say the same for his company. But for me, this is a whole lot bigger than them. This is about getting the world to see all the holes in the system. So we can tear it down, piece by piece. Weakness by weakness. So we can rebuild it. And to those of you in the hallowed seats of power and government, know this. You're next.
Okay, close that. So I thought that was a really stop. Okay, so I thought that was a stop. Okay, my recording still. Okay, looks like it. Okay, so I thought that was a really great video that talked about the vulnerabilities that are in our network, whether it's local area network, like within the hospital, or something on a wider scale, such as the company that Todd worked for, and so on and so forth. Okay, so personal data. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is protection of networked system and data is protection of networked system and data from unauthorized use or harm. So you have your online and offline identity. Your offline identity is the one that you interact with offline, as the name states. It's person to person, individual. You don't need a network. Online identity is who you are in cyberspace. It could be the persona that you are in social media. It could be your bank records. It could be your credit card statements. It could be your credit score. It could be any kind of of information about you. It could be images. It could be videos. It could be all of that. So the introduction to personal data. So your data can include medical records, such as from information from EHRs, it could be physical, mental, and other personal information. It could be photos, it could be prescriptions, your education records, like your grades, test scores, if you have any IEPs, your attendance, any kind of disciplinary reports. It can be your employment and financial records, income and expenditures, your tax records, and your also past employment and performance. So, where is your data? Your data, it can be, like I said earlier, medical records, and that's stored either at the doctor's office or insurance companies, or in the case of that video we just saw, a big other company that all the hospitals worked with. Your stored loyalty cards, such as Speedway, Costco, Sam's, all of those. Online pictures, such as friends, strangers can copy them. We post so much stuff on social media, and we don't necessarily think about, the longevity of how long that video or photo will stay on social media. The short answer is forever. It's always going to be there. You can try to delete it, you can try to take it off, but the long and short of it is it's still on a server somewhere. No matter how short of a period of time frame it was on there before you decided that you wanted to delete it, it's on a server somewhere. It is darn near impossible to have something removed. So be careful before you post and share. Your computer devices. So your data is also in your computer devices. It's a data storage in the portal of your online data. So example of computing devices can be, our laptops, our cell phones, and even like fitness trackers, like a Fitbit or something or other. It can maintain data about you as well, like your location, your blood pressure, things of that nature. It can keep track of you as well. So personal data as a target. How do criminals get your money? They can use your online credentials, password, your username and password. They're able to get access to it. They can have access to your financials. Creative schemes. They can trick you into wiring money to your friends or family. Why do they want your identity? They want the there's long-term profits, medical benefits, file a fake tax return, open credit card accounts, and obtain loans. So we have organizational data. Let's see, types of organizational data. There's traditional data, such as personal, intellectual, and financial. Personal can be like your application materials, payroll, employment agreements, etc. Intellectual can be patents, trademarks, and whatnot. Financial can be income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. You have your IoT and big data. IoT is Internet of Things. IoT is a large network of physical objects such as sensors. So we have so much stuff that is IoT, that has the potential to be IoT now. Even our refrigerators and our HVAC systems, all of that has the capability of being IoT. Basically, they're wired and connected to a network. It mentioned earlier Fitbits. That was an IoT device. It's connected to a network somewhere, and it's tracking and maintaining information in regards to how many steps you walk, where you go, your blood pressure, anything else of that nature. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's considered the CIA triad. So your confidentiality is referring to the privacy. The integrity is referring to the accuracy and trustworthiness of the information. And the availability is making sure that it's available when you need it. Not when the bad guys need it, but when you need it. I got a bit of a cold going on. Okay, sorry about that. I got a bit of a cold going on, so bear with me. So one of the things that we'll be talking about in the class in relation to the triad, of the CIA triad, is the concept of least privilege.
The principle of least privilege is by no means new, but it remains one of the most important concepts in IT security. Limiting the access rights of users to the bare minimum they need to do their jobs is highly effective in enhancing the security of today's complex IT environments. Remember Edward Snowden, who leaked sensitive data from the U.S. National Security Agency? Although many factors contributed to this incident, one thing is abundantly clear. He had far more privileges than he needed to do his job. Even though his highest level task was creating database backups, he was given administrative access rights to critical data and systems. By abusing those excess privileges, Snowden was able to leak an estimated 1.7 million sensitive files. In response, the NSA announced the drastic action of revoking 90% of high-level permissions from system administrators in order to improve its least privilege posture. Adhering to the principle of least privilege brings solid benefits to your organization. Smaller attack surface. It's harder for users to compromise what they don't have access to. Better operational performance. Restricting privileges to the bare minimum reduces the chance of deliberate or accidental system changes that could lead to downtime. Improved compliance audits. Most regulatory standards require that users be given only the privileges required for their job responsibilities, so implementing least privilege is a critical step toward achieving compliance. Check out netrix.com/go/privileges to learn more and find out how implementing least privilege can help you minimize the insider threat.
Okay, so they talk about Snowden there and how he had access to far more stuff than he needed with the NSA, which is how he got all the information and did all the leaks and all that stuff. So no matter which side of the fence you're on that in regards to your views, he should not have had access to everything that he did. Because it led to other problems. And whenever the NSA saw that, what he was doing with his basically a free for all access, that it was creating problems and too much information was being leaked. So they, modified the access, the kind of access that everybody else had. So it's kind of like, I'm an instructor at Hocking College. Is there a need for me to access payroll? No, there's not. Because if I had access to payroll, I could do something with my personal salary. I could do something with other salary. I could just, maybe if I didn't even want to do anything with the salaries, I just wanted to be nosy and see what else everybody else made. I don't need to have access to that information. So the concept of least privilege is my role as a program manager at Hocking College and an instructor does not require me have access to payroll or really a whole lot of stuff in human resources. So they limit my access rights and my privilege rights to what I need for my role, and that's it. I'll pause this again. Okay, I'm back. So, what are your thoughts on the following? It's one of the discussions that we'll be having. Store loyalty cards. I like my store loyalty cards. I have a Sam's membership. I like buying things in bulk because I hate going grocery shopping on a weekly basis. I like my Speedway my Speedy card, my Speedway points and whatnot to get the free coffee or gas or whatever it is I spend it on. I like my Tim Hortons rewards so I can get a free coffee or donut or whatever. It doesn't really bother me if somebody's tracking that data. If they give me a coupon for a free coffee, I'm like, yay! It doesn't. I'm not that concerned about it. Others could be. My husband and I talk about the genetic testing with Ancestry 23 or whatever it is, and he's adamant. He's totally against it. He will not do it. I'm curious, but he says he doesn't want anything to do with it. Just because they're going to use that information, our DNA or whatever it is for, we don't know what they're going to be using it for. For me personally, curiosity gets the best of me, and I wouldn't mind doing it. I haven't, but I'm not totally worried about the DNA thing. They can get my DNA from anything. They get my DNA from the tissues that I got in my trash because I got a cold. But, I don't get overly concerned about that. Sharing pictures online, I think Snapchat, when it first came out, when a friend first introduced it to me, whenever it came out, she says the picture was supposed to delete after about 3 seconds. I don't know if it's still like that or not. But the thing that got people was the fact that, if they had a silly picture that they don't want somebody to be able to save or access later on, with Snapchat, they thought it would go away after 3 seconds. It would disappear and don't have to worry about it again. Well, aside from it being on the server Snapchat server somewhere, so it never disappears, your friend could easily snapshot or screenshot there from their cell phone that silly picture, and then they could share it. Same concept with emails. You can delete an email and then delete it from your trash box and think it's gone forever. No, first of all, it's never gone forever. There's a way for Google, whoever it is that's hosting your email, to retrieve that if necessary. And there's nothing being said that, if somebody couldn't have forwarded that email or they couldn't have taken a screenshot of that email, they couldn't have printed off that email. You have no control over what you put out there. So once you put something out there, consider it public to the world, because in one way or one fashion or another, it could very well be public to the world. So take that in consideration, whether it's even texting. It takes nothing to screenshot your text messages, and that can be spread across the world. So just be very deliberate on what you share, whether it's through texting, whether it's through email, whether it's through social media, whether it's through any kind of platform that requires any kind of network. Be very, very, very careful of it, because it could potentially go viral in reasons that you don't like and could be very bad. Okay, so there was the the lab. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is practice. Let's go and watch this video first. This is on a Linux server, or a Linux operating system.
A checksum is a string of characters and numbers generated by running a cryptographic hash function against a file or other data. You can use this generated output, or checksum, to verify that a file is genuine, error-free, and has not been changed from its original source. Wikipedia explains a checksum as a small-sized datum derived from a block of digital data for the purpose of detecting errors that may have been introduced during its transmission or storage. The most popular Linux command to create a checksum from a file is the MD5 sum command. It uses the MD5 message digest algorithm to produce a 128-bit hash value from the contents of a file. As an example, let's take the string Putorius and generate a checksum from it. The output, a long string of characters, is the checksum. It is followed by a dash, which in this case stands for standard input (stdin). If you were running a checksum against a file, the name would be listed instead of a dash. Now, let's change the input string slightly by capitalizing the letter P. As you can see, MD5 sum generated a completely different checksum even with a simple change. Now, let's run another experiment on a file. To run a checksum on a file is simple. Just evoke MD5 sum followed by the name of the file. Here we generated a checksum of a text file containing all 185 lines of the short story Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. If we edit the file and change one character, the checksum will change. Let's change one random letter G in the file to a letter R and run the checksum again. Even though we only made a very small change in the file, the checksum is dramatically different. This allows you to easily notice that the file has changed. In-depth analysis of hashing algorithms is beyond the scope of this tutorial. However, it is important to know that not all algorithms are created equally. For example, MD5 has well-documented weaknesses. The new Core Utilities package that provides the MD5 sum utility also offers utilities that offer different algorithms and higher bit hash values. The following utilities all work the same way and should be available on any Linux system. SHA-256 and SHA-512 are recommended for most applications and generally considered secure. For instance, CentOS and Kali Linux both require the use of SHA-256 sum to check the integrity of its ISO files. Here is an example using the SHA-256 sum utility. It works exactly the same as MD5 sum. A common use for a checksum is verifying the downloaded file. For example, let's say you wanted to install the latest Kali Linux. When you get to the Kali Downloads page, you will notice they provide a SHA-256 checksum for each file. Once you have the file downloaded, you check the integrity of the file by running SHA-256 sum and comparing the results with the hash on the website. If the strings match, the file has downloaded successfully and has not been altered since the folks at Kali created the checksum. Checking the integrity of a file is an important step in ensuring a secure system, specifically when downloading files from the internet. In this article, we discussed how to generate a checksum and how to use it for a file integrity check. Now that you know how to use them, you should read up on hashing algorithms. If you enjoyed this video tutorial, please like and subscribe. Don't forget you can always visit www.putorius.net for a text version of this and many more tutorials.
Okay, so this one was for Linux. The computer I'm on is Windows, so I have this link here that explains how to do a similar thing. We're just going to do the MD5 thing on Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Da, 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 da. Okay, so here's the file. So I have a, I think it's on my desktop. Yeah. So I have a file that I created for the exercise in the class. They use the hash calc. We're not doing that for this. I just want to show there's multiple ways of doing it. So we have a hash.txt file. It's in my desktop in a folder named Cyber 1100. So I'm going to open up my command prompt and I'm going to get into the right file. So cd desktop excuse me. Let's see. Okay, so if I do dir, yep, I see the hash.txt file in there. So the instructions say do cert to till dash hash file. The name of the file, which was, you can see right here, hash.txt. When I was doing this earlier today, I had the worst time. I kept having typos for something. And then MD5. Okay, so it gives me my hash number. And let's see. So I'm going to open up that file. Let's see. I'm not going to do it in VS Code. I was going to do it in VS Code, but it'll take forever. So it's going to change the word miner to miners and save it. So it's been saved. And then I'm just going to do the up arrow and do that again. And you can see that the hash code has changed. Okay. So I don't make any changes now. And I'll do it again. It's the same up here as it is here. The hash number changed from miner to miners. And whenever I don't make any changes, it stays the same. So you can see how that kind of is a security measure to make sure that there's not been anything changed. So let's say we just change something really, that's not what I want. No, close it, looks like it. Okay. So right now it's capital S. Let's do a lowercase s. So it's not big of a change. It's pretty minor, right? And I save it. Yep. Get back into here. Just do the up arrow. and you can see it changes. So it changes even if the letter's the same and just the case changes, it still changes. So there's even a minor change will produce a different hex number or hash number, sorry. Okay, so moving on, let's see. Okay, the impact of security breach. The consequences of a security breach. Let's see, it's not feasible to prevent every attack. Attackers will always find new ways. They say the bad guys are smarter than the good guys. I don't really necessarily, I mean, that's what they say because the bad guys are usually thinking of something new way of doing it. And it's usually the good guys that are trying to catch up with whatever new way the bad guys came up with. You have a ruined reputation, vandalism, theft, revenue loss, damage to intellectual property. So there was a security breach example with LastPass. It's an online password manager. You guys, I'm sure, dealt with managing all kinds of multiple passwords, have to have a certain kind of complexity to them so that they be secure. But with this day and age, it's really easy to have too many passwords. Even you just can't. You just can't remember them all. You can deal with it has stolen email addresses, password reminders, and authentication hashes. It requires email verification or MFA when logging in from an unknown device. Users should also users should use complex master password, change master password periodically, and beware of phishing attacks. The impact of a security breach. So VTech. VTech is a high-tech toy maker for kids. They expose sensitive information, including the customer names, email addresses, and such. Did not safeguard information properly. Hackers can create email accounts, apply for credits, and commit crimes using children's info. Hackers can also take over the parents' online accounts, which could be bad. I'm not familiar with VTech, but I'm sure there's like videos or something that you don't want the kids to be seeing on that. That the somebody with malicious intent could put the videos on there. Let's see. Equifax. Equifax is a consumer credit reporting agency. The attackers exploited a vulnerability in web application software. And Equifax established a dedicated website with a new domain name that allowed nefarious parties to create unauthorized websites for phishing scheme. So I haven't really heard of any kind of the problems with LastPass or VTech, but I know Equifax was really big a few years ago. So that you can actually file a claim with it. So if you go to that link, it takes you to the FTC website. Okay, I'm back. So if you can file for part of their settlement here, file a claim. I did it earlier today. It's pretty simple. Yeah. So if you want to do that, there's that. Let's see. Moving on. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So basic networking. I thought this was kind of an easy way to explain the concepts of networking for those who weren't familiar with it. So I'm going to play that video now.
Networking is the word people use when they're talking about connecting
If my internet decides to work.
computers together so they can share data with each other and all connect to the internet at the same time. Let's take a closer look at the key components that make up a simple, easy to set up network. Think of a network as something similar to your body's central nervous system. At the top of the network is a brain that handles all the traffic coming through. This is called a router. The brain is connected to a spine that sends signals throughout your network. This device is called a switch, and it distributes signals to all of your computers and devices via network cables. Now let's check out each of the components of a wired network in more detail. We'll start with the router. A router has a smart little computer inside that identifies all of the computers and devices on your network and assigns a unique number to each one. Techie people call this an IP address. A router also connects to the internet outside your home via a modem that can be provided by your DSL or cable internet provider. A router is always at work, managing the tons and tons of information your computers and devices send and receive, and controlling which computers and devices get what information and when. So how does a router actually send information from the internet to your computers and devices? And how does it enable your computers to share information with each other? The answer lies with that device we mentioned earlier, a switch. A switch sends traffic through your network to the places it needs to go. Every Netgear home router has a switch with 4 ports built right into it. You can also get wireless routers from Netgear that use radio signals to do the same thing as a switch, but these still have those 4 ports built into them, so you can use wires with them too. When you're buying a router for use in a wired network, pay attention to the speed of the built-in switch. The fastest switches are called gigabit, and they're perfect for applications like streaming video in your home. Meanwhile, routers with switches called fast Ethernet are great for essential tasks like web surfing, email, and online gaming. Now say you have more than 4 items you'd like to plug into a router. You need more ports. The solution is easy. You'll need an additional switch, which again is that thing that's already built into your router. In this case, though, you just need the switch portion and not another router, because your network doesn't need 2 brains after all. Netgear has switches with as few as 5 ports, as well as some that feature 24 ports or more. Once again, if you need the fastest speeds, go for a gigabit switch. Your Smarty Pants Netgear router will recognize these new connections and start sending data to them right away. Here's one more thing to keep in mind. Some people often confuse a switch with a related device called a hub, which is obsolete. You just need to know that hubs were replaced by switches because switches do the same thing, but with a lot more speed and smarts. A router, a switch, and network cables all come together to create a fast and reliable wired network that works a lot like your body's nervous system. Fortunately, you don't have to be super brainy to understand how it all works.
Okay. Okay, so this was another exercise, and then let's see, types of attackers. So there's amateurs, which basically people who just kind of do it for fun, and they use tools that are already found online. There's hackers, so would break into computers or networks to gain access. There's the White House, who do it with the permission of the organization, just to see where the vulnerabilities are. They're gray hats, which compromise the systems without permission, but they're not exactly holding anything hostage. Then there's the black hats who do hold the stuff hostage, take advantage of any vulnerability to gain for legal gain, personal, financial, and political gain. Then there's organized hackers, which is an organization of cyber criminals, hacktivists, terrorists, and other state-sponsored hackers. So there's internal and external threats. Internal security threats are basically the people that you let in the doors. They're the employees, they're the contract workers, they're, like I said, anybody you let in the doors, trusted partners. There's external security threats, which are the outsiders. They can exploit vulnerabilities in the network or computing devices. They use social engineering to gain access. So, for examples of outsiders, it talks about the organized hackers, such as cyber criminals, hacktivists, terrorists, hackers, such as black hats, gray hats, and white hats. But remember, the white hats do it with permission. Then there are amateurs who are just playing around and just seeing what they can find out on the internet. So, more or less. And talk about BYOD. So there's a little article talking about the pros and cons of BYOD.
everybody, welcome back to Field Force Friday. This week we're going to be chatting about a trend that's been pretty popular for field service organizations, BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device. So while the BYOD trend isn't exactly new, a lot of service organizations are wondering what the risks are and whether it's worth it. So let's just dive right in and take a look at some of the pros and cons of running a BYOD policy within your service business. All right, so our first pro over here is that it lowers technology costs. So this is pretty obvious, but some of the costs will be transferred over to the employees. And even when companies are supplementing the data plans of their employees with BYOD, the technology costs still go down because you're not having to buy, big bulk devices and things like that. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is that it improves user engagement. So when technicians are using devices they know and are comfortable with, they're more likely to use them more often. And frankly, when technicians are using their devices more often, they're going to get more done. So it's a win-win for everyone. All right, our third benefit is that employees like it. It's nice using devices that you know and are comfortable with, and studies have shown that even when employees have to cover some of the cost of using their own device, they still are happier using their own devices because those are the devices they've chosen to use in their personal lives, and it makes sense that they would like the features of those devices. And our last benefit is that generally you get to take advantage of newer devices. So when you're investing in the same device for all of your employees, that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money. So you can probably only do it every few years or 5 years or so. So you might be stuck using, even if you would invest in new devices today, in 3 years, those are going to be pretty out of date. Whereas personal devices, individuals tend to update a lot sooner. So with that, even though everyone's not using the same device, they're still using newer devices with more cutting edge features. And those are features that your organization can take advantage of then. So those are some major benefits to consider. You have increased employee engagement, increased productivity, lower costs, but BYOD doesn't come without its challenges. So we're going to go through a few cons of BYOD. Just because there are these challenges doesn't mean that you can't work around them. There are products and workarounds that we're not going to cover today, but that you can look into and still make BYOD work for you. So the first con we're going to go through is security concerns. So obviously when you have technicians using different sorts of devices and when they're mixing personal and work, it creates a little bit of a saucy situation for security. So that's just something to keep in mind. The next con is that there's no uniform user support. So similarly, when everyone's on different platforms and using different devices, you're not going to have an internal IT person, that can fix everything. So some of this user support will have to fall back on your employees and, having them seek out their own solutions if something happens to their devices. Our last con is that it's hard to implement a BYOD policy when you have on-premises software. So an easy solution for this is to make sure that your service application that you're using is SaaS-based, so software as a service. The reason for that is it can be expensive and hard to train employees on an on-premises software when they're each using their own version of the app. So a SaaS solution, a SaaS app, will make that uniform across platforms and across devices. And then one last thing to consider is it's similar to the on-premises software. It's hard to use a BYOD policy when the service app you choose doesn't run cross-platform. So an easy solution to this is to just make sure that the app you choose to run your business on can run on any device and any platform. So even if you're not using a BYOD policy today, you can switch over at any time. All right, that's all we have for today's Field Force Friday. See you next week and have a great weekend.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go back into here. Let's see. So another class discussion topic was thoughts on using LinkedIn and security. So here's another article on LinkedIn. And I never really thought about this until several years ago. I was working at Ohio University, and they had some gentleman from the FBI came in and do a little talk to us about, the cyber threats and the vulnerabilities that we have in our system. That's just true in all systems. And they brought up LinkedIn, and I thought it was a really interesting concept that just kind of stuck with me. And what they said was that, when you're on LinkedIn, you post, what kind of software you're. Hold on, get ready to sneeze. Okay, I'm back. So they talk about how, when you post your job on LinkedIn, you kind of talk a little bit about the platform, the software you use, because that's your experience with that software. And if there's any future employers, looking at it, they want to see that your experience with. I mean, that's the whole purpose of LinkedIn, just to share your professional skill sets. Hold on. And for a big part of it, for those who work in IT or computer science field, I mean, that is the software and the platform and the languages that you use, right? So, hold on. Okay. So they talk about how foreign spies use social media to target government contractors. And it says the FBI sent a warning to private sector partners about foreign intelligence services using social media accounts to target and recruit employees within the U.S. government clearance. So FIS, which is the Foreign Intelligence Service, officers will use popular U.S.-based platforms and the respective country's social media platforms for personal and intelligence gathering. So the warning authored by the FBI's Washington field office, was sent to the government contractors whose employees hold various levels of security clearances. So the FBI warning comes as the U.S. has seen a rash of government employees defecting or helping foreign intelligence services over the past few years. So basically, they have a lot of government employees. For whatever reason, they're switching sides and siding with another government. Snowden was an example of that. The FBI alert includes links to government resources, but contractors can educate their employees on how to handle themselves online. The optimum scenario would be clearance holders would avoid disclosing that they have a government clearance online in the first place. Let's see. So, like I said earlier, how social media was like sharing photos and sharing images and sharing, like, your personal life, talking about. I've seen stories where people post that, excuse me, where people post that they're going on vacation. And the world knows that these people are no longer at home. Well, the world means social media, knows that, Sarah and Tom are not at home, that they are going to Virginia Beach somewhere. It's like, hey, that's prime time to break into their house, right? And steal their stuff and whatever, and they'll never notice it. Or at least until they get back. Basically, you're advertising your house is empty for the week. So, that's why a lot of people, I think they've learned that, is I've seen them post the pictures and their, vacations after they get back. Not during their trip, but after, when they're back home. Because
I've come up with a plan on how to kill our husbands.
What is this?
I'm in.
Wow. Leave the bottle.
Don't you think you've had
Is it this?
Of you? Yes. Of Chardonnay, never.
What do I have on? I have no idea what I have
The
on.
Bible says, thou shalt not kill. God might not understand. Maybe not, but I'm sure God's wife will.
I have no idea. Oh, what's this up here? Okay. What is this? There's a video in here somewhere. It has to be this page. no idea what it is. Okay, I want to get off of that page. I assume it's that page. Yeah, that's annoying. But just talks about how, the vulnerabilities using on LinkedIn, showcasing and share the information, the platform, the services, and the IT, the technology that you use, that creates a place for the bad guys to kind of see what, if they're targeting a certain institution, certain organization, they can see what platform you use, what's operating system, meaning operating systems that you use, what technology you use. And they can figure out how to just focus on infiltrating that particular technology, or do a little bit of, what's it called? Social engineering, I think, in regards to trying to get with people who work at that particular organization to have those kind of clearances, to get in and do whatever bad stuff they're wanting to do. So let's talk about cyber warfare. So cyber warfare is a conflict using cyberspace. Stuxnet malware is designed to damage Iran's nuclear enrichment plant, use modular coding, use stolen digital certificates. Yeah, that's a video. The purpose of cyber warfare. Hold on. The purpose of cyber warfare. It's used to gain advantage over adversaries, nations, or competitors. It can sabotage the infrastructure of other nations, give the attackers the ability to blackmail government personnel. Citizens can lose confidence in their government's ability to protect them. It can affect the citizens' faith in their government without physically invading the targeted nation. Late last week, I think it was Friday, the internet went down at Hawking College. It just, whatever happens, it went down, right? It happens to pretty much anything everywhere at one point in time. But the internet went down. It's like, I can't do anything. I couldn't even look up our student schedule, through the app. It was just at a standstill. So imagine that on a much larger scheme, like the power grid. Like if our power grid was attacked, what would we do? I mean, we would have an oh crap moment times infinity, I think. The internet was like an inconvenience. I'm like, it'll be back up. It'll be fine. But imagine the power grid. I mean, we get inconvenienced and annoyed when our power goes down locally because of a storm or a power line went down. But imagine the power grid and how much damage that could do. Okay. So what would you do? So here's an example. You're walking in the parking lot and you see a USB drive line on the pavement. You pick it up and give it a visual inspection. It appears to be in good shape. What would you do with it? Would you plug it into your computer to see if you can find the owner? Would you just kind of claim it and say plug it into your computer for use on your files and projects? Would you take it to the police department, or would you trash it? So what would you do? Hopefully you did not do one or two. You can take it to the police department if you want. I don't know what they would do with it. Hopefully they wouldn't plug it into their computers, or you can just trash it. So, so here's a little article. Half of people plug in USB drives that they find in the parking lot. So a new study was found that almost half of the people who pick up a USB stick they happen across in a parking lot will plug it into their PCs. Whenever they did this, researchers did this project, spread 297 USB drives around the Urbana-Champaign campus. They found that 48% of the drives were picked up and plugged into a computer, some within minutes of being dropped. So the security community has long held the belief that users can be socially engineered into picking up and plugging in seemingly lost USB flash drives they find. Unfortunately, whether driven by altruistic motives or human curiosity, the user unknowingly opens their organization to an internal attack when they connect the drive, a physical Trojan horse. So say, for example, I'm in the parking lot, and at Hawking College, I get there that morning. I found a flash drive in the in the parking lot, and and I pick it up, and I go to my desk in my office, and I plug it in. like an idiot, no offense, to my computer to say maybe I can find the owner. Okay, if there's any kind of malware or anything with bad juju, so to speak, on that flash drive that I can't see, I have now just compromised our entire network within Hocking College. So don't pick up a flash drive that you found and plug it in, whether it's for good intentions like to find the owner or just to, for your own personal gain if you now have a flash drive. Don't do it, okay? So there's that article. Let's see. So the summary. I'm not going over that. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So that's this session right here.